Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Hatter Highlight. We're very excited to highlight Lex Ford from the class of 2007 in this edition of Hatter Highlights. So thank you, Lex, for taking the time to meet with us this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So we'll jump right in. So Lex, if you want to tell everybody in the Stetson community just a little bit about yourself, maybe how you found Stetson, how you were approached by Stetson, and then kind of what made you commit to Stetson as a student.
Sure. Absolutely. So I'm multi-generational DeLand. We go back 4, 5, 6 generations in town, depending on the side of the family. And part of that is, we pretty well all went to Stetson. Both my grandparents on my father's side, my father and mother met at Stetson in the 70s, got married when they were seniors, and then actually had my sister the first year of Stetson Law. So I was the next generation to attend, and all probably 6 or 8 of us have attended and graduated from Stetson. So going to DeLand High, I applied to one school, and that was Stetson. So it worked out all right. Started in 2002, took a little brief hiatus in 2006, but finished up in 2007. So that's how I got there. Yeah, it was can't tell you it was my plan going into my senior year, but I wanted to stay local, and Stetson seemed like the right fit. Enjoyed the campus and the smallness of the school.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. A whole legacy, a family of Hatters.
Yeah.
Then you commit to Stetson, and did you know what you wanted to major in when you committed, or did that take some time figuring out after you got to campus?
I did. Yeah, I came in as general business, and that's what my father did. All intents was going to law school, as my father and my grandfather did. They both graduated from Stetson Law. As I spent time on campus, I focused more for a B-Law minor, and then I spent quite a bit of time in the family business classes, though I never converted my major over. I took most of the classes. So yeah, I pretty well set it on general business when I got there, focused a little bit more on the law and the family business as I was going along. But the general business seemed like the right fit for me.
Absolutely. And were there any special clubs, organizations you were involved in while you were a student, or outside of that too? Were there any faculty or mentors that you met while you were at Stetson that had a strong impact on you?
So my grandfather was a Sigma Nu. My father was a Pi Cap. So I pledged Pi Cap, though I never initiated. I still a lot of friends. My fraternity father was Naeem Eggleston, and we're still very close. That was about all that I participated. Other than the family business, really felt like the biggest community type class that we had, other than maybe Boozer's management, where he lets you run the class. I did 2 of his, but still have a lot of friends that were Pi Caps, and never a couple buddies that went Sigma Nu that I still keep in contact with. But that's about the only thing I got involved in while I was on campus. Worked a lot.
Gotcha. So and what was that like, working a lot in college? How did you balance the personal life and working and making sure you stayed on top of everything in the classroom?
Not very well. Yeah. It took me a few years to get serious about college. So my last 2 years, I think I buckled down and made sure I graduated. But working was a choice. I wanted my own money, despite my parents' encouragement to let them help. And I worked for my father for a few years in his law practice, and then I worked for Lowe's Home Improvement my last few years, which is was a great experience, from getting to know how to talk to all kinds of people.
Definitely. So we'll go from kind of entry level as a student to now, say you're approaching senior year, you're going through senior year. What's going through your mind? And as you're about to graduate, do you feel like you know what you want to do already? Or are you still kind of thinking, what am I going to do when I get into the professional world?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a lot of guidance while I was there from Jan Pugh, who was Dean Shiner's assistant. So she helped me sort of right side myself in the second half of my college career. And then, I was planning on going to Stetson Law like my father and grandfather had, and I took the LSAT and did fine. And I thought about, could I go through another 3 years of education, and probably much more rigorous education I'd previously been through. So I passed, and actually at my graduation party, a local bank president asked me if I'd want to join their bank. So I've thought about law school, had a lot of fun for about 6 months, and then I reached out to him and said, yeah, I'd be interested. And that's how I got into banking. Still would love to get the education, but found myself pretty lucky to not be graduating from law school in say 2010 or 2009, when the economy was still a bit in trouble. So I had plans and didn't fall through, and happened into banking. So there's a little luck.
Yeah, awesome. So let's transition to that then. So getting into banking. So what was that like? And what was your first job that you got offered by that president? And then kind of how did you progress after that?
Yeah, so the bank was Main Street Community Bank in DeLand. And my first job was a part-time management associate, where I did everything from working in the file room to working on the teller line to customer service. And that first day, I can remember I walked into the senior lender's office confident, and he said, do you know how we make money? And I said, had to say, no, sir, I don't. So it was a very quick, humbling experience of how little I knew about the world. And I was there for about 5 years before I moved to another community bank in Mount Dora, First Green Bank. And there I did underwriting, like I did also at Main Street, and some lending. And then by the end, my title was wingman to the executive chairman, which was the coolest name in banking, coolest title in banking. We focused on sales, business development, and the coolest thing was we were the first bank in the state to bank the cannabis industry, and I banked 100% of the operators in the state. So it was an awesome experience prior to selling to Seacoast Bank in 2018, and then Seacoast for 3 years lending, and then October of 2021, the CEO from First Green tapped me on the shoulder and asked me to come be his president at Climate First Bank, where I am now. And so that's been a nice almost 6 months now of my first executive role, running essentially everything below him. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And from the information that I've seen, and then maybe you don't want to brag on yourself, but we'll definitely brag about you. Very young to be named president of a bank like that, especially in the state of Florida. So that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, I think I'm the second youngest in the state currently. There's been others younger over time, but I set a 10-year goal in 2013 to be a president of a bank, and I hit it in roughly 8. So I was pretty happy with that. I was hoping I was the youngest, but there's one person a couple of years younger than me ruined my Friday night when I figured it out. But all's good. It's good to have young people in banking.
Yes, that is quite the accomplishment. So was there a point before you came into this role that you're in now where you kind of thought, this is what I want to do, or this is what I'm really passionate about? Or, was there a moment that you've had so far in your career where you felt, okay, this is the kind of work I want to do?
So, I happened into banking, as I told you, and, quickly you find out that you're a bit of a generalist, that you know a little about a lot. And part of that is becoming operators, company operators, trusted advisor. And that's what really is my favorite part about it is, there's 30, 40 customers in my book of business that call me on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to get advice on how to run their company. And, whether it's sitting down at lunch over a Teams meeting or over the phone, we have good conversations, and sometimes they take my advice, sometimes they don't, but it's a lot of fun, right? You get to see companies grow. I've got one client who I started banking, about a year and a half into operation. A few years ago, they made one of the fastest growing, I think they're in the 70th fastest growing company in the nation. I won't say who they are, but they're local to Central Florida and rapidly growing. So getting to see companies come out of the ground, and other than the cannabis, which was truly an industry coming out of the ground, that's the most fun about being in banking. Spend time with people, learn about their business, and help them do a little bit better.
Definitely. So if you can share a little more maybe about what your role is now as president at Climate First, and what all does that entail, being president of Climate First?
Sure. So Climate First Bank, we're a mission-based business. So the focus is on environmentalism, but we also focus on the other two parts of the S and the G of ESG. So we're focused on social and governance as well. The bank, like First Green, it's a different level of attachment when you work for a mission-based business. You want to work just a little bit harder because you're making an impact somehow, some way, and you can't say that about other companies or other institutions, because most of the time we're just worried about shareholder return. Here we're worried about shareholder return, but also stakeholder return. So from a day-to-day perspective, Ken LaRose is my CEO and chairman of the board. He's my mentor. He's the one who gave me a chance to do this. When he had only known me for a few years, he took me under his wing in say 2016, and when he found out I wanted to be a bank president, and sort of groomed me. So when I came over in October, he essentially said, I want you to run the bank so I can do the fun stuff. So whether it's loan production or operations of the bank, or identifying, recruiting new talent, it's the whole thing. Everything rolls up to me, and then I roll up to Ken, and he's the visionary of the bank. This is his third startup, so he's entrusted a lot of capital. We raised $44 million in capital. We have access to another $88 million in capital in the next year, and we plan to grow the bank to $2 billion within 8 years. So it's a very aggressive growth plan, bigger than either he or I have ever been a part of.
Absolutely. So, and I know you've touched a little bit on this already, but so you take your view that you had of your 10-year plan of, I want to be a president of a bank in 10 years, you get there in 7-8 years. But what about first day walking in as president, sitting down in the chair, if you were going to an office, or if it was during COVID, if you were at home? But what was it like first day? What are you thinking? What are you feeling when you sit down and you're like, okay, I got to where I want to be, but what does that actually feel like day one when it's your turn?
And I spent roughly those 8 years thinking about that day, right? And how I would position myself stepping into a role with a bunch of folks who may not know me, a bunch of folks who may think I'm too young, a bunch of folks who I haven't been able to build trust with yet. And a lot of stuff came at me that first day. We were closing on some real estate in St. Pete, which had a little issue. We were trying to get some loans closed at the end of the month to stay on track with our budget. We're working on a revised business plan. So I don't remember the first day. It was a whirlwind. But from the first day of moving over from Seacoast, it was a breath of fresh air. Because one thing you do have in a community bank is you have a lot of control, right? No matter the role, you control your daily basis, and you have a say in the growth of the bank and the path of the bank. And the second thing, it's nice to have a pretty flat organization. We have a hand in hiring every role in the bank, and I know we won't always be able to do that. I know I won't always be able to interview every person that comes to work for the bank or is hired by the bank, but it's nice getting to know them and having a hand in bringing them on and supporting them. So that's my favorite part of the daily basis, when I have a one-off conversation with one of the staff that they tell me something I don't know about the bank that makes it a little bit more efficient. But the first day, I can't say I remember. I probably fell asleep pretty early that night. So, yeah, it's been fun the whole time.
Awesome. And then, so outside of normal bank operations, what are some other maybe community projects that you've been involved in, or maybe that Climate First has made a priority to be involved in that you'll kind of have a hand in moving forward?
Sure. Well, from the bank's perspective, we're working on affinity accounts, which are something historically banks haven't done. And the first one we rolled out was a Paul Hawken regeneration account, and that's an environmentally focused account where we'll make a donation for every account to Paul Hawken's foundation, as well as the foundation will derive the interest from the account. So that's pretty cool. And this next one we're going to do will be focused on the LGBTQ community, and we haven't yet determined what foundation we'll be supporting there, but we're going to open an affinity account that will allow our customers to sort of vote with their money and their interest, and if a donation from the bank will come from those accounts being open. So those are two cool things that we're doing right now that I don't think any other bank is doing, and that is strictly based off of our mission-based platform, right? If we weren't a mission-based company, we wouldn't be doing those things. From a community landscape perspective, the bank has a foundation that I've been president of. Well, I shouldn't say the bank has it. There's a foundation formerly known as First Green Foundation. Now it's the Climate First Foundation, that the banks have supported and donated a percentage of profits. Obviously, being a startup, banks take a couple of years to make money. There's no profit today, but there will be soon. And Climate First Bank will be a major donor, a large donor to Climate First Foundation. Through the foundation, we've done a lot of cool things. We helped take down some preserved land in Lake County on Lake Norris to not allow developers to get hold of it. We used to do solar grants. So if somebody came in for solar financing, which the bank does a lot of, we would issue them a grant from the foundation. Some of the schools in Lake County didn't have recycling buckets, so we purchased recycling buckets there and put in water bottle fill stations at one of the high schools in Lake County. We've done a lot of stuff through the foundation, and right now we are supporting a company called Harvest Time International in Sanford. We're going to be donating a chunk of cash to them. They're building a standalone grocery and goods store for those 200% of poverty or worse, where they can come in and buy groceries or clothing or diapers at a percentage of what they could from even a store like Save a Lot or something like that. And that's a very large project that will be great for Seminole County. Harvest Time has been in Seminole County since 1994, so we're just adding to the mission there. But if we weren't a mission-based bank, we wouldn't be doing these things, and that's the cool part about working for a mission-based company.
Absolutely. It sounds like you all are doing some fantastic things in your day-to-day operation, but also in the community, which is incredible to hear. So this one, I like to round out all these header highlights we do with this final question. I love to kind of take it back, hearing everybody share their perspective and their advice on these things. But so put yourself back in, let's say you're graduating senior shoes, you're a month away from graduation. Looking back on yourself in that position, what advice would you share to, and commencement here is about a month away, so we'll have a good crop of graduating seniors soon. What advice would you share to them on graduating college, getting out in the professional world, just getting adjusted to that life?
Yeah, I think the main thing, and it comes from my senior lender, who's 30 years my senior at the bank. He very early on in our working together said to me, everybody deserves a chance to be humbled. So when you are graduating and maybe you hear the person next to you has this fantastic job, or you're not the speaker at commencement because your GPA wasn't so great, or you barely limped across the finish line like me, just realize everybody will be humbled and everybody deserves a chance to be humbled, and go forward with that in mind. Because it's happened to all of us multiple times, and each time hopefully we get better from it.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And Lex, thank you again for taking the time to join us today. This was fantastic conversation. It was great to hear more about you, your Stetson experience, and also what you're doing now. You are a great example of the Stetson alumni that we have out in the community, in the world, and we thank you for all the great things you're doing.
I very much appreciate the time. Thank you.